Okay, so it's time for a new tutorial. So what I'm showing off here is what's the end result after my work. So I've recorded this after I've made the tutorial. So this is the toolkit with an added new unit with a custom skeletal mesh with a different skeleton, one of the Mixamo ones, that has an area attack and with Destructible Terrain. So this serves as an example of how you can add your new custom features to the toolkit, and is to show off how flexible the toolkit is when it comes to adding your own features, making your own custom functionality, making your own gameplay. So let's show how this works first. So we have this new unit here, which uses a different skeletal mesh from one of Mixamo's free skeletal meshes with animations that can be had on the marketplace. So it is animated, and when it attacks, it has an area attack that damages both of these and destroys the terrain around it. And then afterwards, see, this is turned into difficult terrain that can be moved into, but which has a higher movement cost. So that's what I have made in this tutorial. So in the next few minutes you'll be seeing me making this stuff, so you can replicate that yourself, and hopefully it will be an inspiration for you to add your own features to the toolkit and show you how it can be done. And afterwards, or first, there will be a video showing all of this explosive stuff, and then there will be a different video showing how I set up the new custom skeletal mesh for this new unit. So yeah, let's start the tutorial. Okay, so I've opened up a new fresh project using the toolkit, and I've imported a few things. I've imported the Mixamo anim pack here with the animations and skeletal meshes that Mixamo have made. So these are free and available on the marketplace. They use a different skeleton from the default Unreal skeleton. So with these I can show how to set up a custom unit using a different skeleton. And I've also imported the explosion effect from the starter content. So that's all we need for this tutorial. So first I'm going to open up or create a new level. So I'll start from scratch here, just quickly set up a grid. Use a square grid for this, and yeah, I'll zero it out and set it to be a decent size there. Okay, so now we want to make a new troop that can attack other troops with an area attack. So that means that first we have to create a new unit. So I'll base this on the ranged unit. That makes sense if we're going to shoot a projectile that will explode. So let's duplicate this, and we'll call it unit player ranged or unit player area. There. Okay. So I'm going to use a different mesh for this afterwards, but for now let's just differentiate it by making it a different color. So I'll make it, let's see, yeah, blue. There. Yeah, all the animation stuff. Somehow, even though you're using the same mesh, anytime you make a new duplicate you have to set up these again. That's done rather quickly. Just like this. You just set up the same stuff again. There. And there. Okay. So far we have one of these units, and then I will set up a couple of enemies so we can test out area attacks. So here are two units. So far this guy should work just like a regular ranged unit. So if I attack, there they are, I just just damage him like usual, and these two should probably kill me because I don't have much health. Yeah. So he works. Okay. So area attacks. So the most obvious way to implement a new attack is to change the blueprint code that concerns, well, attacking. So we have the attack victim event. So most of the stuff that's run in the attack victim event is run in the parent attack victim event here. So this runs all of the code that's connected to the event attack victim in the parent class of this blueprint, and the parent class of the unit player area, since I duplicated this, is the unit parent. So that means that every time we attack, we run all of this stuff here. But we want to run something else instead. Let's see. Has it crashed? No. Okay. So this code here just basically runs the receive damage event on the pawn that receives damage, but we don't want to do that. We instead want to create like an explosion, an area effect, and damage all the pawns within a certain area. So that means that in the unit player area unit, we don't want to run this. We want to run our custom stuff instead. Though we still want to play the attack animation. So we'll just put this at the end, and we'll clear some space here. And then I'll copy this, and we'll make the appropriate modifications. See. Okay. So, what of this do we want to keep? So when we attack, we still want to set the marker location, the location of the attack marker, to our target. So that's okay. We'll attach this like before, and make the attack marker visible. That makes sense. And set the rotation of our actor to face whoever we are attacking. That we'll keep that too, but this we don't want to do, and just have the regular receive damage on the pawn we're attacking. So what we want to do actually is, if we attack this guy, we want to find the indexes or the locations of all these different tiles surrounding him as well, and then we will want to deal damage to all pawns that are stationed on those particular tiles. So how do we do that? Well, it just so happens that we have the perfect function for this in the grid manager, which you are aware if you've seen my huge tutorial video on all the blueprints. But I can understand if you haven't seen all of that, because it's a really big video. But basically we have the find tiles in range function that finds all the tiles within a certain range of a particular tile. So we'll start by doing that instead of running the receive damage stuff. So what tiles do we want to find? We want to find all the tiles surrounding the pawn we are attacking. So our start index should be the index that we are attacking, which means well, the index of the victim we are attacking. So let's get the index of this guy. This works because we have like an automated setup in the construction script of all pawns, so that we know all their indexes. If we did not know that, we could instead get the location of the victim and then run it through the vector to index function within Grid Manager. But since we already have this set up, we can just use the index directly like this. So that's the start index, and for this tutorial I just want to have a small explosion, so I'll have a range of 1, which means that it will be the start index and all surrounding tiles and nothing more. I could select check visibility. That way cover and walls and stuff would block pawns from being hit by the explosion. I won't use that now. I can check find only pawns. That works well here, and yeah, we'll find, or actually I want friendly fire as well. I'll just keep this false, and I'll look at all indexes within range. I won't bother displaying tiles. I won't use a diamond shaped explosion in this case. Max Z difference, I keep this to something high, so the explosion can also hit something that's on a platform above, let's see, like 500, and minimum range I'll keep that at 0, so there's no hole in the middle of the explosion. Okay, so after I've found all these tiles, then I want to check all of the tiles that I've found. So within this function, as you may know if you've seen my previous tutorials, in the find tiles in range, in this case, since we don't just find the visible, we find all tiles in this case. But yeah, in either case, they end up being stored in the pawns in sight array, even though they might not be pawns. So if I hit this guy, then all of these tiles and this one should be stored in the pawns in range array. So that's what we need. Let's see. So that's also contained within the grid manager. Let's see. Pawns inside, I mean. There. So we want to check all of these indexes for pawns, and if there are any of them, we want to deal damage to them. So let's see. So for all of these, we'll run a for each loop. For each element in this loop, we will check the, let's see, the pawn actor array, the array that stores all of our actors, and we'll see, is there an actor on this particular index. So the index that's in sight, let's check this, and yeah, we don't have to check actually, we can just run the receive damage stuff, and it just won't work if there's no pawn on it, so we can just keep it like that actually. Let's see. Yeah, get this out of the way. And yeah, actually I can keep all of this. Just move it like this. There. Make this a bit prettier. Okay. So for each of these, we want to run the receive damage stuff. So for each in the loop body there, and yeah, that should basically work, I think. Just yeah, don't want to choose next turn multiple times in a row, so we'll keep it like this. And this should basically work for our very basic area attack. Let's see if it works. Compiler error. Let's see, what's our error? There we are. Okay, let's see what happens. Yeah, so we attack both. So that's a basic area attack, doesn't look very fancy, but we have it working, so that's quick enough. So let's add some visual effects. So we'll use our particle effect, the explosion here, and we'll set it up to fire when we attack. So we'll go back into the unit player area, and we wanted to fire at least before we start these delays. We can do it whenever we want before that, I think, basically, but yeah, I guess it makes sense to do it like here or somewhere. Let's see. Okay, so we'll spawn an emitter at a location. So we'll spawn the emitter at the location of the location that's the same as the index that we're attacking, or really we can just use the location of the victim we're attacking. That's even easier. So we'll just get the location of this guy. Can I get it from here? Yeah. So we'll just get his location, and we spawn an emitter, and we spawn the explosion there. Okay, I think this explosion is probably too small, but we'll see how it looks. I always go the wrong way there. Okay, yeah, it's a tiny explosion. Okay, we'll make it bigger. That's easy enough. We'll just set the scale. So we'll set the relative scale to something a bit bigger. Let's say 5 times. Yeah, that looks okay. Okay, so we have some visuals. I kind of feel that there should be a delay though. If I just check here again. Yeah, it just explodes the moment I click. So let's add a slight delay there. Let's see. Before we spawn the emitter and all the other stuff, so we have, of course, on each of these units we have already have an animation variable called anim damage delay, which is the time from, usually it's the time from the attack animation starts playing until damage is dealt. And well, this will work too for getting our delay here, I think. So we rotate while we're playing our animation. At the moment we're playing the animation, we're not playing the animation at all actually. So we should play this before we have this delay here. So let's play the attack animation, then we'll have a delay. It's equal to the anim, let's see, the anim damage delay. There. Okay. And then some of this stuff gets unnecessary, I think. We don't need a delay to receive damage. That can be kept at 0. So we'll keep a slight delay before choosing the next pawn. Okay, let's see if it works. So we should shoot first and then the explosion should come. Boom. Yeah, that looks okay. Okay, so that was easy. So let's do something a bit more tricky next. Destructible terrain. So let's say when we attack with an area attack, we want to destroy any surrounding terrain that's said to be destructible, so that we can remove cover and make for some interesting tactical decisions, kind of like XCOM, the way, something like that at least. Okay, so then we'll have to make a new sort of terrain for the destructible terrain. I don't want all tiles we make to be destructible, so we'll make like a new, I guess we can make a child blueprint of the tile parent. I'll call tile parent destructible, so this will be like the parent class of all destructible tiles in the future. And then I'll have to make some new, we have a new level, let's just have it untitled for the purposes of the tutorial. And let's see, I lost my train of thought. meshes. So let's see, destructible. What would look good destructible? I mean, the obvious one is the wall. So yeah, the tree. That could look cool actually. Okay, let's make a destructible tree. Let's see, why it's so dark here. Anyway, let's see. Let's fracture this. Huh? Yeah, that does look cool. Okay, we'll make a destructible tree, and it shouldn't be like this default material on the inside. Let's and set it up to impact damage, so we can deal impact damage to it, and yeah, at 1. So when we take a damage of 1, we fracture it. That yeah, that seems good enough. Okay, how do we put this? Let's see. Let's see here. The materials. There we are, and we'll take this as, let's see, green on the inside too. Yeah, looks good. Okay, so we have a destructible tree, and then I'll make a new child component of the destructible tile, and I'll call it, let's see, tile destructible tree, and we'll put one of our meshes in here. Let's see. There we are. Okay, and it's connected to the custom grid anchor, or it should be there, so it's always at the center, even though we're using a snap to custom grid functionality. Okay, so we have a destructible tree. Excellent. And let's place it here. Now they shouldn't be destroyed yet, of course, because we aren't applying any force to them. So let's do that. So yeah, I guess the thing that would make most sense would be to have like a projectile and then have a force applied around the projectile, but it will take too long, I think. Just keep it simpler. I'll just have, let's see, a radial force component just that's connected to our guy here by default. Though we only fire it when we hit something. So radial force, and the radius, well, let's see, if we want to hit all of these tiles around this guy, then the radius, and all of these are like 200 across, then the radius should be, well, it should at least be 200, perhaps 300, so we'll get everything. Let's see. So yeah, radius of 300, and like a larger impulse strength. Or actually, let's just keep the defaults, but we'll need some destructible damage at least. Okay, 5. And when we hit, so when we spawn the emitter, we also want to put the radial force at the center of the explosion, and then fire off that radial force. So let's see. So we'll just, let's see. We'll just set the world location of the radial force to be the same as the location of the explosion. There. And then we want to fire the radial force. Let's see, how do you do that again? No, wait a second, it's called impulse. Yeah. So yeah, fire impulse. There. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, explode. Yeah. Okay. That worked well actually. So Love how easy it is to put up Destructible Terrain. In Unreal, though there are, I mean, this works okay, I think. Let's just up the health of this guy. Let's see. So these other guys don't kill me. And yeah, because, well, now I can destroy this stuff, but I kind of want to be able to walk on top of this, and at the moment they are still considered to be walls, and I mean, it actually looks like these could very well be walls, but let's make this difficult terrain, I guess. I mean, this looks like really difficult terrain. So how do we do this? Well, as you know from previous tutorials, like the edge costs of all of these tiles are stored within the edge array in the grid manager. So these tiles will have edge costs of 0 because they can't be entered, and I want to change the edge costs of these to something else when they are destroyed, like something like, I guess, 2 or 3 or something, so they're difficult but not impossible to enter. Yeah. So one can imagine that the best way to do this would be similar to when we hit these guys. So we have like all the tiles in range, right? And then we'll check, okay, which of these tiles have a destructible tile on it, or a destructible tree, and for those tiles we want to change the edge costs to be something else. However, I don't currently have an array that stores different sorts of tiles and terrain. I just have the edge cost array that stores the costs of different tiles. That means that if we check these tiles, we can only know which of these tiles have different edge costs, but that might be for several reasons. They might not be destructible terrain, they could be like a river or something, and we don't want to change the edge costs of that tile. So we could, of course, make a new grid-sized array in the same way as the pawn array or the pawn actor array, where we store all the different tiles. And that's one way. That's a decent way of doing it. But we can do other things as well. I mean, for me at least, working with this, it's sometimes easy to forget all the other features of Unreal Engine that you can use for this. So so instead of just working with arrays, I can actually use like a collision box, and use a collision box and check what it overlaps, and then find the appropriate tiles, and then change the edge costs of the location of those particular tiles, if that makes sense. I hopefully will when I make it work here. Okay, so what I want to do now is when I explode, I also want to have like a collision box that appears here. I'll also just have this tied to the unit in this case. I mean, that's not the most elegant way, but it will work. So let's see, I'll use a collision. I could use a sphere, but I think I'll use a box since that confirms better to the square grid. Okay, and I'll have this also, or I'll have it, yeah, at the radial force. So when the radial force is moved, then the box is moved with it. And the extent of this box should be like equal to well, all of this. How's this set up again? Oh, let's see. My screen is actually my monitor is bigger than what I'm recording, so I can't just maximize. Let's see. Okay. So if I keep this, let's see, 300. It looks. Let's see. Yeah. So that covers. That's big enough. And for this collision box, I did it again. Let's see. Okay. So for the collision box, I want to have generate overlap events, since I want to check what it overlaps. But it doesn't need to overlap everything. I mean, it can ignore everything except for destructible, I guess. There. And yeah, let's make it visible just to see that it works. So when I attack, it should move to whoever I'm attacking. Yeah. Oh, but it's twisted in the direction. That's not good. So yeah, let's not have it attached to the radial force. So instead we'll have it connected to the scene component directly, and we'll just set the location as appropriate when the explosion hits. Let's see. So after we fire the impulse, we want to set the location, or really the transform of the box, so it isn't rotated. Let's see. Set world transform. Let's see. There. And we also want to set that at the same location as we set all our other stuff. There, or transform. Okay, so that should work. Let's see. Yeah, that works. Okay, so we have a collision box at the appropriate place, but it doesn't do anything yet. We'll need to have, let's see, the destructible tree set up so that it can overlap. So let's look at the destructible here. Let's set up the collision of this thing so it can generate overlap events. Let's set it to custom. We'll ignore most stuff. Block visibility, camera, path trace, range trace, not path trace actually. And we'll overlap destructible. Okay. And we'll block the rest. Okay. So now it should be able to overlap our box. So now that it does that, we want to get all the overlapping tiles of the appropriate type, destructible type, within range at the same time as we find the tiles in range. We can do it at the end really. So yeah, when we have this box, we'll just find all overlapping. Let's see. Let's see. I will get the overlapping actors of the type. Let's see. The one we made, tile parent destructible, right? Yeah. We'll just take all of those in case we want to add more different types later. And for each of these, we want to run a for each loop. Let's see. And on the for each loop, we want to get the index of each of these actors. Let's see, can I get that directly? I don't think so. I have to cast it. So we cast it to tile parent destructible, and from each of these we get the index. Let's see. There. And then in the grid manager we want to change the edge array at the appropriate index to be difficult terrain instead of impossible, or terrain you can't move into at all. So let's get the edge array, and we'll set the element at each of these indices to, let's see, let's just put it at, I guess, 3. There. Okay. So this should work. There might be many things that have gone wrong, but who knows. I'll just get close to this so I can try to move across this terrain. So yeah, we can still see this box, but yeah, at the moment I can't move here. I can't see this guy actually. Yeah, he's blocked by. Yeah, okay. But if I move a bit there, okay, so those are destroyed. That's like before. And now I can move. Yeah, and it's difficult terrain as you can see, so he prefers to move around them, but he can't move on top of them. So yeah, actually we have destructible terrain set up and working. Huh. Now lastly, I want to change the mesh of this guy to one of the Mixamo ones. But I guess that's better to put in a separate video, so since there are a lot of people wanting to use custom meshes with different skeletons, and they don't want to look through all of this stuff every time. So yeah, I guess now a link will appear to jump to the next video that shows of that stuff. Okay, see you there.